Welcome to Film Shlubs. It's our inaugural episode. I'm Luke.
And I'm Daulton.
So each week what we're going to do, we're going to be talking films. Usually we're going to review a film that is something neither of us have seen. And we'll kind of talk about that later when we talk about next week. This week, though, in honor of Halloween, my favorite holiday.
And mine as well.
Is your favorite holiday?
It is. I love Halloween.
Yeah, I mean, I hate Christmas. I absolutely hate Christmas.
I don't mind Christmas, but it's no Halloween.
Exactly. So, in honor of Halloween, we're going to do our top 5 horror movies of all time. Now, I think we're going to have 2 very different lists.
And I think our lists might be a little different than most everyone else's lists.
That's true. Most people like the slasher, gory type films. I'm not a huge fan of that genre. You?
Sort of. Sort of.
Yeah.
I like it in the cheesier... I like them a little cheesier than the more serious modern slasher movies.
Gotcha. So we'll be doing that here pretty soon. We also went and saw St. Vincent, so we'll be reviewing that here in just a little bit. But let's start with some movie news. Big news yesterday, or a couple days ago, Marvel is releasing how many films?
I think
97?
Yeah, 900
films.
movies?
900 movies in the next 4 years. No, it's 9 movies in the next 5 years?
9 movies in the next 5 years, yeah.
Okay, so this summer we've got Avengers. And then Ant-Man. And that doesn't count as a real movie because it's horrible. I love Paul Rudd, but come on, it's an ant.
I don't know. Marvel hasn't let me down yet, so...
Yeah, they haven't let me down yet either, except when it comes to like Spider-Man and Thor, Daredevil, X-Men. The third one, what's the third one? United? I don't even know. That's how much they've disappointed me with
they
that.
haven't let me down in the last 5 years, so...
You're saying Disney hasn't let you
Yeah.
down, not Marvel.
Exactly.
Did you see Stan Lee is actually suing Disney for use of some of his characters?
I heard about that, yeah.
That's interesting.
He's fighting for the rights to Spider-Man, was it?
Oh, was it Spider-Man?
I thought so.
Oh, okay. Which is fine. Maybe he could do a better Spider-Man movie than anything we've seen so far. So the 9 movies are, we talked about, so we have Avengers and Ant-Man this summer. Next summer we have Captain America. Which is Civil War?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have a Black Panther movie.
We do have a Black Panther movie.
Chadwick Boseman.
It's going to be awesome.
Jackie Robinson.
And James Brown.
Get On Up. Good young actor. I thought 42 was excellent. I haven't seen Get On Up. But
looks
I
really
want
good,
to.
though.
I want to see it. What do you think about Black Panther?
Personally,
what do you know about Black Panther?
I don't know a whole lot about Black Panther. Believe it or not, me being the resident Marvel comic guy, not a whole lot that I know about Black Panther. I know he is part of the Avengers, and from what I've seen, he's pretty cool, but I don't know.
I think it's great that they're having an African-American lead.
Oh, yeah.
Because, yeah, you've got the Falcon, Sam Jones. You've got, in the Fantastic Four, Michael B. Jordan is going to be playing...
Human Torch.
You had War Machine, played by Don Cheadle and Terrence Howard.
Yeah.
But you haven't had, a lead.
Yeah.
His own feature, so that's great
It's gonna be...
for African-American. Then on the flip side of that, you're going to have a woman lead.
Oh, yeah.
As Miss Marvel and Captain
Marvel.
Who do you think should play Captain Marvel?
I don't know.
I thought Anna Kendrick.
See, I'm not sure about that.
You don't like Anna Kendrick?
I like Anna Kendrick.
Not in that role.
Yeah, just not in the role. I think it needs to be kind of a tougher kind of lead.
You want China from the WWF in the 1990s?
There you go. I don't know. I think it just needs to be someone that's not... that we haven't seen in, say, Pitch Perfect or something. You know what I mean?
So no Rebel Wilson as Miss Marvel.
Oh, Rebel Wilson would make a perfect Miss Marvel.
What about Anna Gunn? Anna Camp, I'm sorry. Anna Gunn is from Breaking Bad. Anna Camp is the blonde from Pitch Perfect. Also from
possibly.
True Blood. You think?
Maybe.
So
I don't know.
So no, you can't do Emma Stone, right? Because of the Spider-Man tie-in. I think that'd be disingenuous to fans.
I think so, yeah.
Although can't do...
bringing spoilers for Spider-Man 2, bringing Emma Stone back as Mary Jane, just give her red hair, would be perfect.
That'd be weird.
That would be very weird.
Because that would
I'd
bring
be
up
okay
some
with it.
deep psychological issues for Spider-Man. And it could be a whole Sixth Sense thing. Like, does she really look like that, or is that what Peter Parker thinks she looks like? I don't know. As long as she doesn't look like Uncle Ben, I guess then things would be a little weird. But I think Ms. Marvel will be exciting. You got Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Oh yeah,
Which I thought Guardians of the Galaxy has by far been the best Marvel
fantastic.
film. Yeah, it's way better than any of the other ones. And I like the Avengers. I like Iron Man, except for the third one, which was stupid. But, not stupid, but there were parts of it that I hated. But Guardians of the Galaxy 2 should be awesome.
Yeah.
And what else did they announce?
They announced the third Thor,
Ugh.
Thor Ragnarok.
Ragnarok?
Yeah.
Down in Fraggle Rock? Is that what?
Down in Fraggle
So
Rock.
the
Thor
Fraggles.
3, Down in Fraggle Rock.
The Fraggles are going to be in Thor 3.
Yep.
That's interesting. Although I want to see that movie. I don't necessarily want to see Thor 3. And what else? Is that the bulk of them?
There was also the Inhumans.
Yeah, okay. That's their aliens?
From what I understand, it's how they're going to get around their X-Men problem. The Inhumans are basically the knockoff X-Men, where they're just born with superpowers and they're like a kingdom of people, so that should be interesting. That's probably the one I'm least excited for.
Which of those do you think could be flops?
I
I see Black Panther as one that could flop.
think Black Panther has the potential to flop, but at the same time, it has enough diversity in having a African American role or as the lead.
It's Chadwick Boseman.
Exactly.
Which is
that it would
excellent.
bring in possibly a new audience.
Yeah, that's true.
Same with the Captain Marvel movie.
True.
Um,
Inhumans could flop.
I think Inhumans,
Ant-Man could flop.
Ant-Man could flop.
Yeah.
Um,
I see Ant-Man flopping.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I think the last two are a two-part Avengers movie.
Oh, that's right. You're right. It is,
The Infinity War, I think it's called.
Which, is that having to do with the Infinity Spark, then?
I think so.
Okay.
The Infinity Gauntlet? Is that?
That doesn't sound familiar.
It's, it was a story they did in the 90s in Marvel, and I think that's what they've been building up to with, Guardians and the new Thor and stuff like this.
So in those Avengers, we should see, like, a full-blown universe collide,
I think
correct?
so.
Guardians and Avengers.
Yeah, it sounds that way.
Maybe Spider-Man works his way to the Avengers.
I've heard that they're trying to work out a deal with that, so...
Now, they didn't talk about the fact that Fantastic Four is coming out next year. Because that's not Disney, correct? That's
right,
Sony?
that's Fox.
Fox, which are also responsible for the X-Men.
Yeah.
Which the last two X-Men have been great.
Yeah.
The first three, hit or miss.
Hit or miss.
But, so that's another big Marvel movie that's going to come out. Fantastic Four. It's supposed to be totally different than the Chris Evans and Jessica Alba, Michael Chiklis, and the other guy who I don't even remember. I think he's acting in like a USA television show now, which sums up that whole.
He was on Horrible Bosses, though.
He was
the Wetworks guy on Horrible Bosses.
The Wetworks guy.
Yeah, the part where they hire what they think is a hitman, and it turns out that he's a male prostitute. That's Mr. Fantastic.
Why can't I remember this in Horrible Bosses?
I don't know. I might be making this up. This might be my own sick fantasy here, but
might be making
I think this is a part in Horrible Bosses.
So Marvel's got all these films. So how does DC counter that? Obviously, Superman vs. Batman, Dawn of Justice.
Yeah.
They're going to release their trailer with The Hobbit next month. I'm still not going to go see The Hobbit just to see that trailer. I'll wait for it to leak a day early.
There you go.
But can they really compete with Marvel?
I don't think so.
Marvel has movies won, right?
Yeah, I think
DC
so.
is going to conquer TV.
I think so, yeah.
Because DC already has, 4 television shows?
Let's see, they have Gotham, The Flash, Arrow, and now Constantine.
So that's 4.
So that's 4, where DC only has Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.,
Yeah.
and I think they have the Agent Carter show starting here in the fall.
Agent Carter?
Yeah. The woman from the first Captain America is getting her own show.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that should be interesting. I'm sure that'll be another hit for some reason. And lost in all of this DC Marvel stuff is Star Wars Episode 7.
That's right.
Which comes out next Christmas. We haven't seen a lot of leaked details like we have for Batman and all the Marvel stuff. We haven't seen a lot of photos from the set, which is a good thing.
I think so.
I've stayed away. How much have you stayed away from leaked information?
I try to stay as far away as I can, just because I kind of want to go into a movie surprised.
Exactly.
If I go in knowing too much, then it kind of ruins it for me a little bit.
I completely agree. So, of those Avenger movies, of those Marvel movies, I should say, which are you looking most forward to?
Honestly, I think the Black Panther and the Captain Marvel movies.
Okay.
See something different.
Black Panther, I'm definitely excited for. I'm excited for Guardians 2.
Guardians 2 is going to be great, too.
I'm on the Guardians of the Galaxy bandwagon. I'm driving that bandwagon, actually. It was a fantastic movie. Great cast. The fact that Dave Bautista is good in that says a lot about it. Vin Diesel is Groot. I mean, anyone could play that character, but Vin Diesel does it very well. And then Zoe Saldana is just extremely hot, even with green skin. I would. Oh yeah. I'd Groot her. That's for sure. So speaking of movies, this Friday we've got Nightcrawler.
Looks like a
that's
very
the
good
one
movie.
I'm excited for. That's coming out. Jake Gyllenhaal playing kind of a weirdo in this.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about about his role in this. I don't know if he's the good guy or the bad guy.
It's sort of one of those blurred roles. He really hasn't played a lot of bad guys. He was in Brothers with Tobey Maguire.
That's right.
That he was kind of a different guy in. And actually, I can't remember if he was the good guy, if he was the one with the wife, or if he was the... I've never actually seen the
I haven't
movie.
either. I think Tobey Maguire was the bad guy in that one, though. Yeah.
I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal, I like Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, me too.
Jarhead is a very good movie. There's a movie called Enemy at the Gates, starring him and Rachel Weisz. An older movie. He played a sniper again. This time he was a Russian sniper during World War II. Great movie.
I've heard of that.
Of course, excellent in Brokeback Mountain. Excellent in End of Watch.
Very
I thought
good
it was
movie.
a fantastic movie. But yeah, there's this Nightcrawler film looks like it's going to be a good film.
I think it might be one of his best, honestly.
It looks like a great performance.
Yeah.
Last year around this time I saw Prisoners with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
He played this cop, and he blinked a lot. Like, he blinked with both eyes very hard.
Yeah.
It's part of the character, but I really enjoyed what he did with that character. Kind of played like a good cop, but at the same time had an attitude problem and did things his own way. Great movie. Hugh Jackman is great. Terrence Howard is great. Paul Dano. You know Paul Dano?
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul Dano is fantastic in it. He's one of my favorite young actors. But I really want to see Nightcrawler.
Yeah, me
think
too.
That one looks good. Some movies that are out. John Wick. The more previews I see of this, the more I want to see it. More aesthetically, because I like the color and I like the cinematography of it.
Yeah.
And I also like Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
And I like him saying, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
I think that's what kind of got me wanting to see it, is that line right there. Other than that, it looks like a fun action movie, but I can wait for it on DVD, I
You
think.
don't wait for DVD, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Another film that's coming out tomorrow, at least in our local theaters, Saw 10th Anniversary.
Wow.
10 years of Saw. 93 movies, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
8? 7?
I think it was 7 last I heard.
That's insane.
I kind of lost count at 2. So.
How many have you seen?
I've seen parts of maybe the first 2 or 3.
I've seen the first 4.
Have you?
Not a fan of 4. 3 is okay. 2 is okay. 1 is great. The first Saw movie is excellent.
Yeah.
Of course, it became parodied by Scary Movie 3 or 4.
I think it was 4.
4. We need our resident Scary Movie expert. But 10 years. So 2004.
That's
Saw
crazy.
began. And they did 7 movies in what, like 6 years?
Something like that,
Wasn't
yeah.
there a year where 2 Saw movies came out?
I think there was a year where they put out like 5 Saw movies.
It
Sure
seems
feels
that.
like it.
It's kind of like the Paranormal Activities. They
It really
filmed those
is.
very quickly. And then Riff Tracks is doing Anaconda this weekend.
Really?
Yes, which if you have a chance to go see a Riff Tracks, if you remember Mystery Science Theater 3000, Riff Tracks is an edgier version. It's a more adult version of Mystery Science Theater, if you can imagine that.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah. So we saw St. Vincent on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't know about St. Vincent, it is a Weinstein Company film. Bill Murray stars. Melissa McCarthy.
What is that guy's name? Chris O'Dowd?
Chris O'Dowd, yes.
Yeah.
Chris O'Dowd is great.
Yeah, he is.
He's one of those guys who in Bridesmaid was kind of a scene stealer.
Yeah.
And he's been funny in pretty much everything he's done. I believe he was in the It Crowd.
I think so.
With Richard Ayoade.
Yeah.
I love... I can never say his last name. I love Richard Ayoade. Ayoade? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
The goofy British guy with the afro, basically. But St. Vincent, it's a story about a drunk who owes some bad people some money, Terrence Howard. We've talked a lot. We've mentioned Terrence Howard a lot already.
This podcast is sponsored by Terrence Howard.
It's kind of like an adult version of About a Boy. Like maybe an edgy.
It really is, yeah.
But Vincent, Bill Murray, kind of befriends the new neighbor kid. And the kid is great, by the way. The kid... He is fantastic.
Normally, I
hate
kids in movies. That sounds terrible, but they're not great actors. This kid was fantastic.
Jaden Lieberher. He was great. He was very good.
I look forward to seeing more of what this kid does.
He'll probably do nothing. He's going to be a Jonathan Lipnicki type. I mean, maybe he'll get fat and end up like Haley Joel Osment and be in a Kevin Smith film in 10 years. But also Naomi Watts.
That's right.
Such a great character in St. Vincent. She plays a lady of the night who is Vincent's kind of cohort. But toward the end of the movie, she flips a little bit. And surprises people. I thought it was great. I'm going to give it 4.5 prickly cactuses out of 5. That's how good I thought this film was.
I think I'm going to give it 5 broken fences out of 5.
You're going 5 out of 5.
I am.
I reserve 5 out of 5 for like Casablanca and Dark Knight and things like that. I don't think it's quite up there. It's great. It's a fantastic film. I think Bill Murray will get nominated for an Oscar, but I don't think he'll win.
I kind of agree, yeah.
I think another 80s star is going to win an Oscar this year.
Yeah.
Are you with me? Do you know who I'm thinking?
I don't know if I do, but...
I'm thinking of a guy who played Batman in the 80s.
Oh, okay. Michael Keaton.
I think for his performance in Birdman, I haven't seen it, but what I've heard, raving reviews.
Yeah.
Melissa McCarthy is great in this film.
She is.
I wouldn't be surprised if maybe she steals an Oscar nom.
That would be good. That would... it was a surprising role for her, I think.
It was not... It was the first time I've seen her where she isn't over the top, where she isn't that typical Melissa McCarthy character.
She was kind of a straight man in this movie.
She was. She showed a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? I was watching the movie Go. Have you ever heard of the movie Go?
The one from the 90s?
1998.
Yeah.
Melissa McCarthy has a very small role in that.
Really?
Yes. She has a small role in 1998's Go. But this film, St. Vincent, totally different for her. Shows that she's actually a very good actress.
Yeah.
So I was really surprised. So if you have a chance to go see St. Vincent, go see St. Vincent.
It's good.
It is a fantastic film. All right. It is time for the Film Shlubs Top 5 horror film of all time. Daulton, your number 5.
My number 5 is Cabin in the Woods.
Okay, tell us a little bit about Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin in the Woods, I believe, came out in 2012. It starts out like a stereotypical slasher movie. It's
horny teenagers
go out into a cabin in the woods, believe it or not, and they get cut to pieces by crazy people. But as the movie goes on, you find out why this happens. It's I don't want to spoil anything for those of you that haven't seen it, but it gets a lot crazier than just cannibals in the woods. There's a deeper mystery going on, and it really kind of deconstructs slasher movies, I think. Plus, there's a scene where a guy gets stabbed by a unicorn, so if that sounds like your kind of movie, check that out.
That's got to leave people who've never seen that wondering. A unicorn, a horror film? What is up with this? We watched this movie together a couple years ago. I didn't think it'd be good because I did think it was going to be that stereotypical slasher film. And it starts off like that, like you said. But the twist it takes is fantastic. You see classical monsters, you see new age monsters. It is a very... I don't want to call it a parody. It's almost a commentary on what horror films have kind of become. No famous actors in that. There's a lot of like character actors in the film, but there's no big name. Chris
Hemsworth is in it, but I think they made it before the Thor movies came out. So I'm not sure if you really count that as a big actor at the time.
2012. Chris Hemsworth was big in 2012. Didn't Thor come out in 2010?
I think Thor came out in 2010, but I think they had written this and cast him and all of that long before this. It just happened they kind of kept it until they had a big star, I think, is what I've heard about it.
Richard Jenkins is probably the next biggest name, and you probably don't recognize that name, but when you see him, you were like, oh, it's that guy.
It's him.
Yeah, he's been in quite a bit. Bradley Whitford is in Billy Madison.
Yeah, that's right.
The bad guy, I guess, of sorts in that. And then Brian White is also in the film. But those are probably the three, besides Chris Hemsworth now, looking back, those are probably the three big names in that film. But I like that film. I thought it was surprisingly good. Yeah. So that's your number 5.
That is.
Cabin in the Woods.
All right, Luke, what is your number 5?
All right, so before I give my list, I have to say none of my films are within the last 20 years. All of my films are 1983 and earlier. And this one is a 1964 horror film based off the novel I Am Legend. They did this one much better than the Will Smith version. Vincent Price stars as Dr. Richard Morgan. In I Am Legend, he's Richard Neville. But in this film, Last Man on Earth, a lot of people think that it's a zombie film. They think that I Am Legend is a zombie film.
Yeah.
In I Am Legend, the novel, they're vampires. They have the same characteristics: sleep during the day, have to have a stake through the heart, they feed on blood. And he's basically the last person on the face of the earth who isn't a vampire. And he's built this sort of fortress. And in the Vincent Price film, it's very close to that. Plus, it's Vincent Price. You have the greatest Halloween voice / actor ever live. I mean, there were so many movies. I had House of Wax originally, but I felt that this one was more of a horror film. House of Wax is kind of a psychological thriller, even though I do have a film on my top 5 that isn't necessarily a true horror film. But he's also got Theater of Blood, The House That Dripped Blood, a lot of movies that I could have put Vincent Price in. He's also the best part of the song Thriller, I think.
Yeah.
You know, you've got Vincent Price at the beginning and the outro.
Oh, yeah.
13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo.
That's right.
Vincent Price. Many of the cartoons. And here's some Batman trivia. We got to work some Batman trivia. Which villain did he play on the 1966 Batman?
I don't know.
Eggman.
Really?
Yes. Not one of the more well-known Batman villains.
Definitely not.
But yeah, Vincent Price, Last Man on Earth. They've redone this story. They had Omega Man.
Yeah. Most recently,
I Am
Legend.
Which was terrible.
It bombed.
Ruined the ending. The vampire, zombie, whatever you want to call him, looked ridiculous. And you can't kill a dog. Number 1 rule in films, you can't kill the dog. Once you've killed the dog, you've alienated your audience too much.
You've screwed the pooch.
Literally and figuratively. Well, maybe not literally screwed.
Yeah.
You've killed the pooch. Yeah, you've cooked the pooch?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Kicked the pooch? Don't kick
there,
pooches.
No. We don't endorse pooch kicking.
All right, Daulton, you're number 4.
My number 4 is Evil Dead 2.
Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
Not Evil Dead, the sequel.
That's right.
And actually, did it go Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, then Evil Dead 2?
It went Evil Dead 2, and then Army of Darkness.
Okay, so why did you pick Evil Dead 2 over Evil Dead?
Partly because I haven't seen all of the first Evil Dead.
Okay.
But also, what Evil Dead 2 is kind of a sequel and a remake. When they made the first Evil Dead originally, it was a really small film. It was shot, I think, over
Sam Raimi.
I think it was shot over like a week. Evil Dead 2, they really kind of upped the ante with everything. It's a lot more. If you've ever seen the Evil Deads, you know what they're about. The blood, the crazy monsters, all of that.
The dark humor.
The dark humor. The insane amount of dark humor in it. It's Evil Dead 2 really ups the ante in that. Plus, that's the movie where Ash cuts his hand off and replaces it with a chainsaw.
So not Evil Dead.
No.
Evil Dead 2.
Evil Dead 2.
Okay, but it is a Sam Raimi film.
It is.
Of course, he is the same Sam Raimi who did the Spider-Man trilogy.
That's right.
So maybe he was going a little too cheesy with Spider-Man 3.
I think so, yeah.
Also, the Evil Dead series made Bruce Campbell a star.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still a star. He was at Denver Comic-Con this past summer.
That's right.
Long line.
Long line.
Him and Lou Ferrigno.
He looked really nice.
I've heard he's a nice guy.
I've heard, yeah.
He was. What show was he on USA?
What was that show?
Bird Notice?
Bird Notice,
Bird
yeah.
Notice, yeah. With Bruce Campbell. He should do more.
He should.
Bruce Campbell should. But an excellent film.
Very good.
Evil Dead, Army of Darkness. You really can't go wrong. Which one is it that he says, "Here's my boomstick"? Army of Darkness?
I think that's Army of Darkness.
That's one of the greatest quotes in movie history. So that's your number 4.
That is my number 4.
Evil Dead 2. So I'm starting to notice a trend that you're not going with super serious films whatsoever. I'm going with serious films. More serious films. Okay, I like this. So my number 4 is, if you don't know what Hammer horror is, in the 1930s and 40s, Universal created the Universal monsters. Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon came in the 50s, Bride of Frankenstein. Hammer kind of took that Universal monster and then they kind of made it a little more gothic, a little more Victorian era-y, put it in Technicolor. And as much as people might associate Bela Lugosi with Dracula, Christopher Lee, to me, is the best Dracula ever. And also you had Peter Cushing, who was in Star Wars. He plays in a lot of the Hammer films. He was Dr. Frankenstein.
That's right.
He plays Dr. Van Helsing. And then you have Michael Gough, who was Alfred in the Schumacher-Burton Batmans.
That's right.
He's also been in Sleepy Hollow with Christopher Lee, a famed British actor. He's also in this. This is the Horror of Dracula. It is the original Hammer Dracula. It's closer to the Bram Stoker Dracula, the 1932's Bela Lugosi's version. Still way off from Bram Stoker. Of course, Francis Ford Coppola tried in '92 with
That's right.
Keanu and
Gary Oldman?
Gary Oldman played Dracula. Anthony Hopkins was Van Helsing. Good version, but I picked this Hammer version better. I love the Hammer horror films. I think Hammer's...
They're good. Yeah. They're great.
And they're kind of B-movie-ish, some of them.
A little
Especially
bit.
as they got closer to the 70s. They did, like, Dracula 1972 AD, and it was more of a disco. There was nudity. It was kind of more of a B-movie feel. But the early Draculas, especially Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, great horror films. Fantastic horror films.
Where would you rank Blackula on your Dracula list? That one's always been a weird one to me.
I like Blackula. I think... I mean, okay, here's the thing about the 1970s. There were a lot of blaxploitation films.
Yeah.
We watched, what is it, Black Dynamite?
Oh, yeah.
Which was kind of a spoof of those 70s films. And we're going to watch kind of the Quentin Tarantino version of that blaxploitation here coming up. But I've never seen Blackula. I've read a lot on Blackula. It has its place in history. It's not a true Dracula film.
No.
It's that 70s B-movie type film. Have you ever seen Blackula?
I've never seen it, but I want to.
I do too.
It's it's one of those ones that is just always kind of, I've always been looking out for to sit down and watch it.
How about Dracula Dead and Loving It? Mel Brooks.
Never even heard of that one.
You've never heard of that?
I'm young.
Mel Brooks.
I know.
Have you heard of Blazing Saddles?
Oh yeah.
Have you heard of History of the World Part 1?
Yes, I have. I love all of those.
High Anxiety?
No, I haven't heard of High Anxiety.
That's a Mel Brooks. He goofs on Hitchcock in that one.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Check out Dracula Dead and Loving It. Leslie Nielsen. Amazing.
I'll have to check
Absolutely
that one out.
amazing. Okay, Dalt, you're number 3.
My number 3 is a little movie called The Lost Boys.
Very nice. Very nice. Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh, yeah. The two Corys, Corey Feldman and Corey Haim.
You couldn't have one Corey without the other.
Oh, no.
Had to have them both. R.I.P. Corey Feldman. I mean, Hames.
Yeah.
Corey Hames.
Corey Hames.
Corey Feldman's career.
R.I.P.
Corey Hames. Yes. Now, how many Lost Boys have there been? 4?
Something like that.
Yeah, they made a couple of sequels recently.
Yeah.
And they made another sequel way back when, right?
I don't remember if they made one way back when. I know they've been pumping out a lot of sequels lately.
We're in Sequelville.
Yeah.
Anymore. Yeah.
And the second one's not terrible. It's a straight to DVD sequel, but it's not bad. But it's no original Lost Boys.
Corey Feldman is in.
He does return in that one.
Okay, all right. Same character.
Yeah.
I did like the dog.
Oh yeah, the
Nook?
the dog and
Yeah,
he's
the
good.
husky. Who plays the boyfriend? He's a famous actor.
He is. I don't know his name though. It's I don't know.
He's in. I mean, he's one of those guys who you see him and you recognize
Yeah.
him. Yes, but
Don't know his name though. Really good movie though. If you haven't seen it, it's about this family that moves to where is it? Like Southern California, a small town that happens to be run by teenage vampires.
Edward Herman.
That's right.
Yeah, Diane West is also in the film.
She's the mom, right?
Jason Patric.
Great movie.
There's some. We said Kiefer Sutherland also from Bill and Ted.
That's right.
I can never. Is it Bill or Ted?
I think it's Ted.
Ted. No,
Yeah.
Ted is Keanu.
Is Ted Keanu?
I think.
It's been a while since I've seen
I'm
Bill
sure
and Ted.
we'll get some corrections.
Yeah.
In this error-laden first episode here. Why Lost Boys?
I don't know. Lost Boys to me has always been one of those movies that since I've been little, I've just watched on repeat every Halloween, and sometimes through Thanksgiving and Christmas as well. It's just a great movie.
What about Hanukkah? We can't discriminate against our Jewish
True.
friends.
And Kwanzaa.
Kwanzaa, okay.
Happy holidays to everybody.
Yeah.
And Halloween.
Or just Halloween.
Yeah. Anyway, but it's just one of those movies that is always kind of stuck with me since I was little, and it's still the ending where the vampires attack the two main characters' house is one of the best scenes in vampire movie history.
Okay, I've got 2 movies in the 80s that were better than Lost Boys. That
Okay.
You're probably going to think I'm insane. First one, you might agree with me on some levels. Monster Squad.
Oh yeah, great movie.
Second one, better vampire movie in the 80s. Fright Night.
I don't know about Fright Night.
Fright Night.
I love Fright Night, but there's parts of Fright Night that make me watch it a lot less.
I will say this. Evil Ed in
Ed.
Fright Night is annoying as shit.
Yeah.
He is freaking annoying. Christopher Mintz-Plasse was way better as Evil Ed. And then, by the way, Fright Night remake, one of the best remakes ever.
Really good, yeah.
Yeah, one of the best remakes.
Surprisingly good.
Yeah, I was shocked.
I think that's an honorable mention, I think.
It could be
both
an
of them.
honorable mention, yeah. So you're still saying Lost Boys better than both of those?
I think so.
Monster Squad.
Monster Squad is up there.
Wolfman doesn't have nards. That's one of the best lines ever.
Wolfman's got nards.
Wolfman's got nards.
I don't know.
Monster ate my Twinkie.
I think the death by stereo scene in Lost Boys tops anything that's Monster Squad has got, though.
There's also a punk band called Death by Stereo.
That's right.
Yes. So that's a good number 3.
Yeah,
Lost Boys is a classic. Of course, Kiefer Sutherland before he became narrator to everything, and Jack Bauer. Could they remake Lost Boys? Do you think?
They could, but I don't think it would work the same. That's kind of what the sequel is, honestly. It's
More of a remake?
More of a modern Lost Boys.
Okay.
And it works for being what it is, but I don't think that they could redo the Lost Boys.
The Lost Boys. Didn't Corey Feldman, did they hang out at a comic book store? Or was it an arcade? It was a comic book store,
I think it was
right?
a comic book store, yeah.
Corey Feldman and then...
That's where they got all of their information, is the vampire comics.
Exactly. Do you remember what comic book they referred to?
For some reason, I want to say it's like Tomb of Dracula or something like that.
I believe it was Tomb of Dracula, which is where we got Blade from.
Yeah.
So it kind of comes full circle with vampire
There
books.
you go.
Which I think is a very cool reference. That
is.
In the 80s, when comic books were, you were a geek. You
Yeah.
read comic books. One vampire movie that they have to make, or I would actually rather see this a TV show, like an HBO Showtime, American Vampire.
Oh, yeah.
That would be... I do want to see an iVampire movie.
That would be cool,
or
too.
Or a TV show. But if Showtime or HBO did an
American Vampire series.
That would be fantastic.
That would be great.
Scott Snyder, if you haven't read American Vampire, even if you don't like comics, go read American Vampire. It is... I'm only halfway through the first volume, but it is fantastic.
Vampires through history.
Yeah. And it's not Twilight vampires either.
It's rip your face off, scary-ass vampires.
It is.
It's awesome.
My number 3. I'll give you a couple of lines. You try and guess it.
Okay.
Come play with us, Danny.
Oh, that's The Shining.
You got it. You didn't even let me get to Here's Johnny. Stanley Kubrick, one of the greatest directors of all time. Of course, A Clockwork Orange, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Did The Shining, of course, written by arguably the greatest horror writer of all time, Stephen King.
Stephen King?
Colorado-based.
Yeah.
He wrote it when he was staying in the Stanley Hotel. They filmed it at the Stanley Hotel. And one of my favorite actors, Jack Nicholson.
Oh, yeah.
Just demolishes this role. Is perfectly inhabited by the entity that drives him insane. Great ending to the film. Very scary. Great cinematography. The shot of Danny riding his bike through the halls, and just that shot, the way that he tracks him, seeing the twins following him, I thought was excellent.
Great shot.
And that bathroom scene. I do have another scarier bathroom scene on my top 5, but this is one of the scariest bathroom scenes ever. When he has her cornered and cuts his head, or cuts through the door and says, "Here's Johnny." I mean, that's one of the greatest moments in horror film history.
It's one of the greatest moments in film history.
Very true. They did a remake, a made-for-TV remake, years later. I never watched it. I didn't really care for it. Stanley Kubrick's film is, this is how I feel about Stephen King films. It's got to be a film. Like Secret Window is great. The one made for TV film, and I actually don't think it was made for TV. We're going back to Corey Feldman and the great Gary Busey. Silver Bullet.
Oh yeah,
is one of the other great Stephen King based films. Green Mile,
Green Mile's
Redemption, also great. But the made for TV Stephen King movies, never good.
No.
The ones that are in theaters, always typically good, except for It. I do like It.
It's good.
Yeah, but that's because you had Curry.
Yeah, Tim Curry.
Tim Curry, yes. We were talking about Tim Curry last night. Rocky Horror Picture. All right, Daulton, number 2 on your list.
Before I get to my number 2, did you know that Stephen King just recently wrote a sequel to The Shining?
I didn't.
Yeah, it's called Doctor Sleep.
Doctor Sleep.
Yeah, it's about Danny as an adult.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting to read.
Yeah, it's one I want to check out.
Yeah, okay.
For sure.
There's a book recommendation.
There you go. All right, my number 2 is The Frighteners with Michael J. Fox and I don't really know who else is in that.
Michael J. Fox is probably the
He might be the most well known in that. Really great movie.
Fantastic movie. It's kind of like Ghostbusters meets Poltergeist.
Yeah, it's I'd say it's kind of a darker Ghostbusters.
It is kind of a darker Ghostbusters.
It's Michael J. Fox plays a con man. He can see ghosts, and he uses that connection that he has with them to kind of con people into allowing him into their house to ghost bust, basically.
This is interesting. We almost are playing like a 6 Degrees of Gary Busey. Jake Busey.
That's right.
Is in this, and Shy McBride.
Really?
Shy McBride is in this. Yeah, he plays one of the ghosts, Cyrus.
That's right,
Yeah. But other than that, you're right. It is basically, R. Lee Ermey, who is the drill sergeant.
Oh,
real life
yeah.
drill sergeant, and in Full Metal Jacket, saving Silverman.
Back to
He's also a ghost.
Kubrick there.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right. But
Oliver Stone is Full Metal Jacket.
no, that's Kubrick too.
All right, I'm gonna look it up.
Okay. But yeah, Frighteners is it's a really good movie. He starts out as a con man, but then he kind of has to become a bit of a reluctant hero because there's something going around this town that's killing people, and it starts to frame him for it eventually. And he's got to clear his name and stop whatever it is that's killing him, or that's killing other people, not him. Really good movie.
You were right. It is Stanley Kubrick, Full Metal Jacket.
Yep.
Oliver Stone did Platoon.
That's right.
Yes. But yeah, The Frighteners, it's got comedy, it's got some action, it's got paranormal, it's got a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Michael J. Fox, a fantastic
Great in it.
actor. It's sad that Parkinson's kind of, for a while, derailed that.
Yeah.
The Frighteners, it does remind me a lot of Ghostbusters.
It does.
It's got that same sort of feel to it as Ghostbusters. But would you argue that Ghostbusters is a better movie?
I think Ghostbusters is a better movie, but my thing with Ghostbusters is it's a little more of a comedy than
Not so much a horror film.
yeah. There's definitely scary parts in it, but I think it falls more into the comedy category. It kind of rules it out of the horror a little bit more.
It is one of the best movies of all time.
Yeah.
It really is. Any other words on your number 2 there?
I don't think so.
My number 2 is Alfred Hitchcock.
Ooh,
Psycho.
great movie.
The original, the 1960 version with Janet Leigh and Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates. Bathroom scene.
Oh yeah.
Or in the shower. It was groundbreaking. 1960, you had the first kind of nudity, and it wasn't even really that bad. It was very subtle. You had a shower scene with a woman. You had her being murdered. You had cross-dressing. Sorry.
That's right.
I was going to say drag queening, but cross-dressing I think is the official term. You had a twist at the end, which was very interesting. Plus you had Alfred Hitchcock doing his push-pull effect, the way he framed things, his lighting, the very setting. One of the best horror films, I think, of all time.
I think so.
One of the best films of all time.
The granddaddy of all horror films, I think.
Yeah, without that horror film, I don't think we see, and this is why I didn't put American Psycho on my list. One, American Psycho I think is too new to be top 5 all time, but also you don't have American Psycho without Psycho. You don't have films like Jason or Freddy Krueger or any of those films without Psycho. And Psycho wasn't really a slasher film, but it really did set the new, psycho character, that psychotic character that, wielded a knife or an axe or a chainsaw. So Psycho, my number 2.
Psycho is also the first movie that they killed off the main character early into the movie, wasn't it?
Very early, yeah. I think she's only in the first maybe 20
30 minutes. Yeah.
She is central to the story, of course. And what happens is she steals some money from an employer, makes a run for it, stays at the Bates Motel, and Norman Bates checks her in, kind of tries to form a friendship. He kind of has a crush on her, ends up killing her, and that kind of sets forth the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Which if you haven't seen that yet, I won't spoil for you. But yeah, it's great story, scary, perfect film. I think it's one of the best films of all time.
Oh yeah.
So before we get to our number 1s, we have some honorable mentions and then some dishonorable mentions. Let's start with the honorable mentions.
Okay. I think Ghostbusters is on that honorable mentions. As mentioned, though, it is more of a comedy, so it's a little harder to...
But that didn't stop you from Evil Dead 2 or Cabin in the Woods.
See, I think those...
A little more horror?
I think my thing with Ghostbusters is there's not a body count in it.
That's true.
In Cabin in the Woods and Evil Dead, people die. There is more horror elements than there is in... which is also going to be something that comes into play with my number 1.
Zool dies.
Yeah, well, that's true, but
The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man dies.
But they're ghosts, so...
The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, I loved.
Oh, yeah.
He was a cutie. Just possessed. We all get a little cranky at times. Other honorable mentions for you?
I think a few are the original Dawn of the Dead. Very good movie. Not the one that started the zombie movie trend, but I think of what I've seen of Romero's movies is the best of his.
See, I think Night of the Living Dead, which will be on TCM on Halloween tomorrow night, I think that's probably the best of the zombie films.
I think that one definitely had one of the creepiest, like most foreboding lines that they've ever said in a movie. That they're coming to get you, Barbara.
Yes.
Which
is a fantastic line.
It is.
Also, you had an African-American protagonist working with white protagonists to kind of survive. It was one of the first films that kind of showed that as well.
Came out in the 1960s?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
We talked about Fright Night.
Yeah.
Fright Night can go on
Fright Night.
Interview with the Vampire.
I've never seen it.
I think it's a pretty good movie. I don't think it's a horror film.
From what I've seen, it's more...
It's more of just a drama.
Yeah.
I think, with horror in it. How about the Twilight Saga? You going Twilight Saga?
Oh, yeah.
One of the greatest horror films.
Team Jacob all the way.
Oh, you're Jake? Okay,
yeah.
You're going werewolves. The Wolfman is one of my honorable mentions.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't put it in my top 5, although it is one of my favorite movies. And we're talking the 1941 Lon Chaney, Claude Rains film.
Yeah.
Also, Wolfman Meets Frankenstein, probably the best horror film in that 1930s, 1940s era, considered by most to be the best horror film. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
I was just thinking that.
Abbott and Costello Hold That Ghost.
Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy.
Yeah. Any
Invisible Man. Anything where they meet
Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
There you go. All great.
Yeah. 1992's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
That's good.
Another great horror film.
I liked the what was it, like the 2010 Wolfman with Benicio del Toro?
I liked it. I thought it could have been better.
Yeah.
But it was a better remake.
I thought it was pretty good, though.
Anthony Hopkins was in that as well. Pretty good. I also like, it just escaped me. It'll come back to me. A Wolf. Jack Nicholson, James Spader.
That's a good one, too.
Good horror film. You can't not mention Freddy Krueger. Much as I'm not a huge slasher fan, but of those films, I would say that Nightmare on Elm Street is the creepiest. Just because of the way that Freddy Krueger does target his victims through their dreams, their nightmares.
That scene where he stretches out of that wall is still fantastic looking to this day.
Another bathroom scene when he takes the woman in the water.
That's right.
Is a good one. Johnny Depp.
Takes
Johnny Depp.
Early Johnny Depp role.
Some early Johnny Depp. That's another honorable mention. What other honorable mentions here?
I don't know. I think we could do a whole episode just on honorable mentions.
The Fly?
The Fly is great.
That a horror film?
I'd say the remake is much more in line with horror films than the original, but
You're talking the Jeff
Goldblum one
version? Yes, I agree.
The Thing?
The Thing.
That movie, I haven't seen all of it. That's why it's not on the list, but that movie is insane.
Stephen King as well.
I think so.
It?
You
throw it on there, even though it wasn't a theatrical.
If we're going that route, we could throw in The Walking Dead too.
It's
like
show,
the first 2 seasons, I'd say.
Okay. Monster Squad.
Monster
Squad, kind of one of those rally films. Van Helsing?
Maybe. Van Helsing, I think, is more along the lines of like a fantasy action kind of movie.
Constantine would be one of my
Constantine's good.
Mentions. What about The Exorcist? What are your thoughts on The Exorcist?
Personally, there's parts of The Exorcist that still creep me out, but it's not what it used to be, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it holds up as well.
Yeah.
Especially now that we have films like The Others.
Yeah.
Or The Ring. The Ring is probably the last film that creeped me out, other than Paranormal Activity. But The Ring is a creepy film. Your brother is terrified.
Oh, yeah.
Still of Samara. But The Ring, of course, a Japanese remake.
Yeah. The
Ringu.
Japanese horror movies are freaky.
For a while, Japanese horror was kind of...
It was kind of the thing.
It was.
The Ring,
Ringu,
The Grudge.
Shuan,
I like how you were saying the Japanese names. I had the American names.
That's right. You were just translating ahead of time. But you're right. And then there was a Swedish horror film not too long ago that Hammer remade. Let the Right One In.
Oh, yeah.
And Let Me In. Let Me In, fantastic. I thought. I hate kids in movies, typically. The kids in Let Me In were great. It was a scary film.
Who is it that's in Let Me In? Is it that Chloe Grace Moretz?
It may be. Which
Because
if
it
that's
is,
the case,
she's great.
She
and
is great.
I think
Kick-Ass.
everything I've seen, yeah. She's been in...
Yeah.
Although I heard that the Carrie remake that she was in is not good.
Well, the original Carrie is not that great.
Also true.
Yeah. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You a fan?
From what I've seen of the original, it has its place, but I don't know if I could watch it now.
Okay.
Another honorable mention I think is, for me at least, is Insidious.
That is a good
modern movie.
one.
It's
Yeah.
It's the only Ghost House movie that I've actually enjoyed, I think.
You know, another remake that I like that's more recent is Amityville Horror.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan Reynolds is actually very good in that remake.
He is.
Let's do some dishonorable mentions.
Okay.
Really bad horror films that tried to be good. We won't go with ones that tried to be bad. One that comes to mind off the bat is Leprechaun.
Oh, yeah.
Or we could even go Jack Frost. Those two are pretty bad.
Those are bad.
Horror films.
I'd say Jason X or Freddy vs. Jason.
Yeah, Alien vs. Predator you could probably throw on there
Yeah.
too.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Freddy vs. Jason is worse than Alien vs. Predator.
You're probably right.
Because that one at least made sense. Freddy vs. Jason kind of just happened out of nowhere.
Did they
it seems.
team up, or did they actually go against each
I
other?
think what happens is they team up, and then at some point they just decide to start fighting each other.
Yeah, that's one I just can't I can't fathom.
Yeah.
The Village, a pretty bad attempt at a horror film. M. Night Shyamalan just started to go down.
Yeah.
With those ones.
One of my favorite, so bad it's good horror movies is The Wicker Man with Nicolas Cage.
Now the original Wicker Man.
The Wicker
is actually
Man
pretty
is
good.
yeah.
But just the scene with the bees.
Not the bees.
Not the bees. Not the bees.
Or the fact that he runs around and punches people in a bear suit.
True. And then he bike jacks that woman.
It's a little girl, isn't it?
No, it's a woman.
Is it?
Yeah, she might be a teenager, maybe, but it's a woman. But it's a bike.
Yeah. Still mean
It's
of
also
Nicolas
a very
Cage.
I mean, and the original is sort of the same way, but it's kind of a pointless film.
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah, and it kind of takes forever to kind of develop. And I'd watched The Village before, like maybe 2 weeks before I saw Wicker Man, and I got the same kind of vibe.
They really do have that same kind of feel to them, don't they?
They do, yes. Some other bad horror films. There's so many. Anything on the Sci-Fi Channel, pretty much, that they originally made.
Anything that just appears on Netflix and says, hey, this is new, watch this.
I have a film called The Wolf Moon that I accidentally bought, and it's terrible. It's one of those cheaply made, cheaply produced films. No plot, just kids in the woods, kind of, you know.
Oh, yeah. One of those.
One of those.
I think any zombie movie that isn't directed by George A. Romero or...
Okay.
I'm not
What about
say...
Danny Boyle? 28 Days.
Okay, yeah.
28 Weeks
Those are
Under.
good.
Yeah.
I think any cheaply made zombie movie is a better way to say it.
True.
Because
What about Zombie Strippers?
Zombie Strippers is a American treasure.
I figured you would say that. How about this? It's a sequel. American Werewolf in Paris. It's to me it's so bad it's good.
I think so too.
It's one of my guilty pleasures.
Yeah.
I actually saw that one before an American Werewolf in London.
Really?
Yes. I'm a big Tom Everett Scott fan, and it came out a couple years, I think a year after That Thing You Do and Dead Man on Campus. Tom
Both
Everett
good
Scott,
movies.
Yeah, great movies. And then he laid an egg in American Werewolf in Paris. The Hills Have Eyes, the remake. You said you kind of liked the remake.
I kind of did. I don't know if it's because I liked the movie or I came in at the part of the remake where basically everybody dies, and then I just wanted to see if the killers would get what was coming to them. So I kind of stuck it out through that. And
aren't they like inbred freaks?
they're like
Hill
mutants.
people?
They're
Hill
mutant
mutants.
hill people.
I like it already.
Yeah.
Sounds like the plot to the next X-Men. So those are our dishonorable mentions. Any other ones that you can think of?
Not that I can think of.
There's so many.
There is.
So many. All right, it's time for our number ones.
Yay!
Your number one.
My number one, this might come as a surprise to a lot of people, unless you've been following this trend of my movies is Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead, directed by
Edgar Wright.
Who did what is the trilogy called?
The Blood and Ice Cream trilogy or the Cornetto trilogy, depending on how you like to phrase it.
Okay.
Which consists of Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End.
Which is the best of those?
Personally, I think Hot Fuzz is the best of them.
Hot Fuzz is one of the best comedies of all time.
Yeah.
I think it is hilarious. Yes,
It's a fantastic movie.
Simon Pegg as the straight man is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all three very good movies. Shaun of the Dead for me in that trilogy sits in the middle, I think. Hot Fuzz being the best and World's End being the not so best.
Worst.
Not the worst. It's good, but Shaun of the Dead is probably one of the best zombie movies I've seen and horror movies, I think.
Yeah. And it's got loads of comedy.
Yeah.
Dry British comedy, which is great. I love that.
It's shot awesomely. It's
great.
It looks great. I don't know how much I can say about this without kind of just going on and on about it. It is a hilarious movie. It's has enough horror elements that it is also a horror movie. There's a scene at the end. I don't know if you know which part I'm talking about when they get to the bar.
Yeah.
Where one of them has to make a sacrifice.
Yes.
It's genuinely kind of a heartbreaking scene.
Edgar Wright kind of puts all of these emotions into one film.
Yeah.
He does that quite a bit. Hot Fuzz is even kind of the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, Timothy Daulton in Hot Fuzz is great. One of the best villains in any comedy or cop movie ever. But yeah, Shaun of the Dead is a great movie. I mean, number one horror movie of all time, though. I don't know if you could say that.
I don't know.
It's only, 8 years old?
Yeah, but I don't know. For me, it's the one that I always go back to.
Okay.
Anytime I watch, or Halloween rolls around, I think I gotta watch Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead?
Yeah. Which is what I'm gonna do tomorrow, actually.
Is that what you're gonna do tomorrow?
I am.
I might try and find my number one and watch it tomorrow as well.
Which is...
So mine is a groundbreaking film in that if you look at the time, so Universal, their monsters kind of died off in the 50s with Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
It was kind of the last great monster. The 60s was kind of the era of great cinematic film. We had color. The Graduate was one of the big movies. You had this new wave of great actors. The 70s was blaxploitation, cop films, car chases,
Kung Fu movies,
action films. The 1980s kind of saw the modern film era begin.
Yeah.
Blockbusters. Jaws kind of set that in motion. Big name directors. You had, Spielberg was starting to up.
Star Wars, Back
Star
to the
Wars
Future.
changed things for special effects, as did Back to the Future. The film that I'm talking about was directed by John Landis. Fantastic.
Great director.
And he did something with this film in 1981 that hadn't been done, that took the Universal films of the 30s and 40s and fast forward them. He got in Doc Brown's time machine, brought him to the 80s, made it modern, added comedy, added gore, added sex, added story, and it's American Werewolf in London.
Great movie.
Best horror film of all time. No CGI. He did it completely animatronic. Had Rick Baker, who is one of the greatest makeup artists of all time, designed this wolf, this very cool looking werewolf. David Naughton starred in the film. Didn't really do much with his career, but I don't think he really needed
he was
to.
in.
And you had Jenny Agutter, who was Nurse Alex.
Oh, yeah.
Who was gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
Had two of the best scenes in the film, of course. You did get to see David Naughton's front parts. But that transformation scene. First of all, I love directors like Tarantino, Scorsese, Kubrick, Stone. Guys who use music.
Yeah.
Who have a soundtrack. And not a score necessarily. Although I do love John Williams, Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
But guys who take
soundtrack.
modern music or classical, classic rock, oldies, infuse it into a film.
Yeah.
As part of the soundtrack. And John Landis did this because you have Moondance as part of the film, and then during the transformation you have Blue Moon.
Yeah.
as he's transforming, you have this very nice, blue moon, and the transformation is gruesome. The special effects was amazing. A lot of it done just by makeup.
Yeah.
Very few actual special effects. It today,
it holds
almost
up
30 years, almost 35 years. It is the best transformation scene in any werewolf film.
Yeah.
And that was 1981. So yeah, that is my number one horror film of all time. I'm a big werewolf fan. I know a lot of people probably say it's The Exorcist or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, whatever.
Any of those.
It is, to me, the best horror film of all time. And yeah, that's my top 5.
That's my top 5.
So tomorrow's Halloween. Or well, you'll be listening today. It's Halloween. Happy Halloween.
Yay!
So we'll be doing this once a week. Shows will air on Fridays. Film Shlubs, like us on Facebook, Twitter.
I'm giving a thumbs up right now, but you guys can't see it.
That's great for our listeners to see the thumbs up. I've been holding up 2 other fingers this whole time, but they weren't as friendly. So next week we have something kind of cool. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna take films every week. We're gonna take films, and then once a month we're gonna have a top 5. So what we need from you is suggestions for films that we have not seen. Leave them in the comments. If we've seen it, we won't review it right now.
We might get to it later.
Right now, we're going to do films that we haven't seen. So post a film, we'll watch it. As long as it's easy to find. Don't give us stuff that's hard to find. And then once a month, we'll have a top 5 list. Give us some suggestions for top 5s. Facebook, Twitter, wherever you can find us. And any parting words, any suggestions. Give us a movie suggestion that everyone should see in the next week.
The next week. Huh.
Did I say we're doing Jackie Brown? That's the film
we are doing Jackie Brown next week.
We've never seen Jackie Brown. It's one of the few Tarantino films neither of us have seen. So we're going to do Jackie Brown next week. But yeah, any recommendations?
Because it's Halloween, I say try and go out and find another honorable mention that I completely forgot about until just now. A little movie called Trick or Treat. It's
Anna Paquin is in Trick or Treat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Creep Shows, where it's like an anthology series. It's a movie, and where it follows a few different stories, but it's really good. It's surprisingly good for it being, I think, like straight to DVD independent movie.
It was, yeah.
It's check that out if you can find it. It's a great Halloween movie. It's lots of fun. It's definitely a scary movie.
I'll go kind of that same route, and it's even modern. This one is Anna Faris, one of her first films, an independent film. It's called May. It's about this very quiet, shut-in girl. She has a damaged eyes as a kid. Her parents are kind of mean to her. She grows up kind of unloved, falls for this guy, and then takes it a little too far. And that's all that I'm going to say. May is what it's called. I think 2002 is when it was released. It's a great movie. Go check it out. Good Halloween film. And that's going to do it. I'm Luke.
And I'm Daulton.
Thanks for tuning in to Film Shlubs, and we'll talk to you next week.
I was working in the lab late one night when my eyes beheld an eerie sight. For my monster from his slab began to rise, and suddenly, to my surprise, he did the monster mash.